pass it along. It's geared towards like confident beginner friendly, so we're excited. So, oh goodness, gang's all here. Let me see. Gonna wait like one more minute. Oh, Sammy's excited for his quilt camp. I am. We had a couple people ask us where quilt camp was. So in like everything following, we have to make sure that it's a virtual camp, because people are like, oh yeah, we can go to Rachelle's house, and I'm like, you will not be coming to Rachelle's house. Like, no, that's not the plan. You're gonna stay in your own home and sew from the comfort of your own sewing area. So that's really exciting. But I'm gonna go ahead and slowly get started for the week. I guess gang's all here. So first of all, this week's task is to sew your strip sets onto your background strips. If you remember last week, I went through some tips and tricks on how you should set up your machine. Oh, you tried to get your 16-year-old niece to join, but she's farming this summer, and I just don't know if I will have the time. So yeah, it's a block a week, so it might be a little challenging, but maybe next time. I don't know. Yeah, summertime is really hard, but yeah, I understand. We farm here too, so it could be a challenge. But okay, sewing your background strips onto your strip sets. Really, it's actually very easy. If you look at page 8, I believe it is. Can't remember. Sorry, I forgot. You will see a diagram that looks very similar to this. I think this is upside down, but oh well. This is your background set. So this will be your E or your G. So this will be, your E or G is this pink fabric right here. And then these pieces right here, the A, B, C, D, are your subcut strip sets. So it'll look like this. This isn't to scale. This is just kind of for an example. So in the diagram, it has you lay out your strips in a certain order. So you have to pay attention. You want to go with the background fabric facing up. You put your subset strips face down onto the background, and you put them in D, C, B, A. And it's a little different for the 8 color and the directional fabric, so you have to pay attention to those pages, but right now I'm just going through the 4 color. So you put D, C, B, A, put another one on there, put another one on there, but you have to make sure that you leave a gap in between your strip sets. I like to leave like at least a 1/4 inch. The minimum I'd use, oh hey Ursula, the minimum I would use is 1/8 of an inch. That's cutting it really tight. But then you once you put all these on, I'm using like ginormous pins so you can see them, but use just standard sewing pins, and you just pin it along the length, and then you sew your seam down the entire length. And you could chain piece this instead. Instead of pinning it on, you could put it into your machine, put on the first piece, stop, leave a little gap, put the second piece on, and sew that, and still for the third one you can do the same thing. So either pinning or chain piecing for the little bit more experienced quilter. You can do that. I gotta turn my iron on here. Similar to last week, you will need to decrease the stitch length on your sewing machine. Like I said last week, I put mine like 1 or 1.5 or 1.5 or 2. Sometimes I go a little less. I don't know. It just kind of depends on my mood for the day, I guess. I did have an aside question. I did have somebody ask me if I would quick go through how I choose my thread colors. For this kind of quilt, with my tightened stitch length, I don't really worry about it. When I do a standard quilt, I like to use like an average color, I guess. So like the average color of these would be, I'd say, like this blue color, this aqua color. So I used this color throughout the whole quilt. Since the seams are so tight, it's such a tight stitch length, you won't see any threads. But if you are using a standard stitch, like in a regular quilt that you don't do, you cut apart your strip sets, I guess it's all up to you. I've heard some people say that they like to use the lighter color, the lightest color of your quilt throughout. And I've heard other people say they use the darkest color, so I don't know. I guess it's kind of up to you, but with a tightened stitch length, you really don't need to worry about that. Same again from last week. Just let the feed dogs do the work. Don't push, pull. Try and make any drastic movements with when you're sewing everything together. Otherwise, you'll get warped strip sets. So you will take it like this. See, you have this is another size, but you have your background piece on here, and then I cut it apart. See the tail ends? I cut it apart from the longer strip. So it's like this, sewn together, and then cut apart. And then we are going to take it, and I'll demonstrate again just real quick, since I did this on my video last week a couple times, but I'll just do it again real quick just as a refresher that you need to do this for these sets too. So you have you put your DCBA on like this, face down onto your strip sets or your background strips. So again, like we did last time, make sure you guys can see this. We're going to gently roll back this backing fabric, or this background fabric, and we're going to finger press, or like I did before, break out my fancy butter knife and just gently push that down, and then we'll press along the length of that seam. So you have a nice open seam, nice and flat. So, and then from there, this is where the tricky part is, kind of, sort of, this week. For the bigger strips like this, where there's more depth to them, I like to take a really big ruler and line it up along the full length. So I'd use, like, pretend this is like a 6x24 ruler. I'd take it and line it up, so you guys can see that, along the length here, and then match it up with the very end of my strip set here. And then this is obviously a 6, just pretend it's a 6-inch ruler. I don't know where my 24-inch ruler is nowadays. And then you'll just go and you'll cut off that end, flip it around, use the same thing, line it up all the way along the length, and then at the very end, cut off your background strip piece here. So as an example, going to line it up with the very bottom and the side of this piece, and then cut off that piece, flip it around, and then cut off this piece here. So in the end, you put on, oh, hey, how are you? Long time no see. So when you put on your DCBA, it indeed looks the right way. When you get finished and press it all open, A, B, C, D, so everything's oriented in the right color. Like I said, you'll have to pay attention when you do the, if you're doing directional fabrics or if you're making the 8-color quilt. So that's pretty much a summary of last week. Trimming is really the only difficult thing that you'll be doing this week. In the end, you want to grab your handy dandy labels that are included in the pattern, and I like to lay out my pieces like this. So here's a finished block. I'm so excited to see this stage. You will trim this piece to 2.5 by 12.5. You will trim this piece to 5 by 12.5, and then the other one will be 6 by 12.5. So, hello. So you'll be sewing those. If you are a little bit long, my pieces are actually slightly long because I have a hard time with my machine in the needle position. I have a hard time getting a true 1/4 inch. So in my work generally I just say, okay, it's as close to a 1/4 inch as I'm gonna get it. I just know that my pieces are going to be consistently big and I'm going to have to trim them down. So my pieces are actually 12 3/4 inches, or yeah, a little more than 12.5. So as long as you're fine to length, everything's the same. So make sure you're consistent, either scant or large 1/4 inch seam. You'll be fine. So your blocks might be a little bit bigger like mine are, but in the end, if they're all the same size, it doesn't matter because there's no sashing, there's no any seam matching except for these pieces here. So I think that might be it for this week. Nothing's really crazy and exciting this week like last week. If you catch up on all the videos, if you happen to miss any, they're all on my YouTube channel. I uploaded color matching or color choices. I did the cutting, which is really key for strip piecing, the strip set making, ironing of those, and then this week I'll have this uploaded tomorrow for the sewing your background strips on. So I think this week is the most labor intensive week. It took me probably like an hour and a half to get everything done. Oh, thanks, Sammy. Hour and a half to get everything done, and I kind of spaced it out a little bit. I just did a little bit, and then I worked on something else a little bit. I just it was a little much for me with the week I've had, but yeah, it worked out pretty good. So yeah, I highly recommend using your labels. See, you can just they're in the back of the pattern. Just write in the number based on the size quilt you're making, and easy peasy. So I'll hang out for a few more minutes and see if anybody has any questions. What else can I talk about here? I guess if you guys want to sign off, you're more than welcome to, but I'll hang out to see if anybody has any questions or just wants to chit chat in general. I'm more than happy to do that. Oh, I did have one question last week. I hang this quilt in the background. This is they wanted to know what quilt that was. That is my free pattern that I have when you go to my website and sign up for my newsletter. This is called Elsewhere, and it is a I can't remember what size it is, 36 by 48 quilt, so it's like a lap quilt, nice good size, and it takes 12 fat quarters. No background, no sashing, and then you can use the leftovers to make a scrappy binding. So pretty much, yeah, literally just 12 fat quarters for making that. So if you want that pattern, go to my website, sign up for my newsletter, and it should show up in your inbox very shortly. So other than that, I hope you guys have a really good week. really don't have any more tips and tricks. But if you need any help, shout out Instagram or email or on my website too. Just shout out and I'll be more than happy to help you guys out. So, but looking forward to seeing like blocks come together and finally, like, I hope you guys are excited to see your blocks and see what they become. See, getting closer to actually assembling them. So I will see you during the week, and you guys have a good rest of your week. Take care. Bye bye.